Have you ever been scrolling just deep in a feed and you suddenly pull your head up and wonder, how did I get here? It all feels so random, so chaotic. But what if that chaos isn't an accident? What if it's the entire point?
I mean, really think about it. One second you're seeing something that makes your blood boil, the next it's an adorable puppy, then an ad for a car you can't afford, then some truly depressing news. It's emotional whiplash, right? It's disorienting. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the hidden architecture behind that feeling.
So, to really understand what's going on, we first have to look at the chaos itself. Let's call it the chaos machine.
Does this look familiar? I bet it does. You're just scrolling along, and your brain is being yanked from one extreme to another. You're angry, now you're inspired, now you feel kind of jealous, now you're sad, and oh, look at that, we're right back to being angry again. This isn't just a random stream of content, it's a very deliberate cycle of emotions.
Yeah, this has a name. It's a psychological technique called fractionation. It's actually an old hypnosis trick. You put someone in a trance, you bring them almost out of it, and then you send them right back in, even deeper. On social media, this constant emotional roller coaster does something similar. It breaks down your mental defenses and, makes you way more suggestible, more open to persuasion.
Now, here's where it gets really fascinating. This very modern, high-tech tool has some seriously old and kind of dark roots. This idea isn't new at all. It's just been put on steroids.
Back in the mid-20th century, Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard wrote about this method he called the Alice in Wonderland technique. The whole point was to create a world where nothing makes any sense, bombarding a person with so much contradictory and bizarre information that their own internal logic just shatters. And when that happens, they become much easier to influence.
And if you want to know just how effective this technique is, look no further than this. The CIA saw the power in this and basically copy-pasted it into their KUBA arcade interrogation manual from the 1960s. They saw it as a way to soften up a subject. See, the goal wasn't just to get information. It was to break down a person's mind so you could implant a whole new story.
So how does it actually work? Well, it's a simple three-step process. First, you overload the brain with pure chaos, non-stop contradictory information. Step 2, that chaos interrupts the normal, logical scripts our brains use to make sense of the world. And in that moment of confusion, when our logic just fails, the brain gets desperate for something, anything to hold on to. And that's step 3. You insert the new belief, the new idea, and it gets accepted almost automatically, no questions asked.
Okay, so confusion on its own is a really potent tool, but what happens when you combine it with our natural instinct to obey authority? Well, the effects get magnified like crazy.
Let's talk about one of the most famous and honestly most chilling experiments in history, the Milgram experiment. You had regular volunteers who were told they were teachers. Their job was to give electric shocks to a learner in another room every time he got a question wrong. Now, the learner was just an actor and the shocks were fake, but the teachers didn't know that. All they knew was a man in a lab coat was telling them to continue, even as they heard screams of pain, complaints of a heart condition, and then just silence.
And the results were just shocking. A staggering 2/3 of the participants, that's 67%, kept flipping the switches all the way to the maximum voltage, a level that was clearly marked danger, severe shock. Why? Simply because the authority figure in the lab coat calmly told them, the experiment requires that you continue.
Now, the truly terrifying part isn't what people did back in 1962. It's realizing that nothing about us has changed. That symbol of authority, the lab coat, it's just evolved. Today, it might be a verified checkmark on a social media profile, or a massive follower count, or just the sheer number of likes on a post. The symbol is different, but the obedience mechanism in our brain, it's exactly the same.
But this whole architecture of manipulation isn't just psychological. It's also linguistic. The ground is being softened for all these techniques when the very words we use to think and debate have been hollowed out or, even worse, completely flipped on their head.
Let's just take one example from the linguist Noam Chomsky. He points to the word libertarianism. Historically, going all the way back to the Enlightenment, it meant something very specific, someone who was anti-capitalist, who believed in equality, and was against wage labor. But in the US today, the word has been twisted to mean, well, the complete opposite. Someone who advocates for giving enormous power to huge, private, unaccountable corporations.
As Chomsky himself puts it, the meaning is so distorted that you can't even have a real conversation anymore. You have to spend all your time just decoding the language before you can even begin. It's just another layer of intentional confusion layered on top of everything else.
So, let's put all the pieces together.
We've got emotional whiplash, we've got engineered confusion, we've got fake symbols of authority, and we've got distorted language. What happens when you combine all of that and unleash it on a global scale? Well, you get the modern internet, you get the social media feed. It's a system that masterfully blends every single one of these manipulative techniques together. It's the chaos of fractionation, the logic breaking of the Alice in Wonderland technique, the obedience triggers from the Milgram experiment, and the disorientation of weaponized language, all working together, all at the same time.
And here's the real kicker. We are trying to navigate this incredibly sophisticated psychological battlefield with a brain that, for all practical purposes, is ancient. Our basic wiring is the same as it was 200,000 years ago.
This creates a huge mismatch, a biological vulnerability. The technology of manipulation is evolving at an exponential rate, way faster than our brain's ability to build up any natural defenses against it. We're just not built for this.
So what this all boils down to is something pretty simple and pretty stark. Your brain does not have a firewall for this kind of attack. We're all going up against a multi-trillion-dollar industry designed specifically to exploit our evolutionary psychology. And if we're not aware of it, the odds are not on our side.
Because in the end, this isn't just a fight for your attention or your clicks. It's a fight to shape your identity. Because once they can influence who you are, they can control what you do. So the real question we have to ask ourselves is, when our very sense of self is the product, who exactly do we trust to be writing the code?